We're going to be reviewing fractions in today and tomorrow's video. So we're going to do part of these pages today and part tomorrow. So we're going to start right here with this first question. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. And it says, which statement below best explains how to evaluate the expression 14/15 minus 2/3? So we don't have to fully work out this problem to solve it, but we do need to at least start. So to subtract 14/15 minus 2/3, we would need to have a common denominator. So our common denominator would be 15. So this would get multiplied by 1 over 1, and it would stay 14/15. This would get multiplied by 5 over 5 and turn into 10/15. Now, we can stop there. Let's look at our choices here. Subtract the numerator first, then subtract the denominator. No, that's not what we did. Write an equivalent fraction for 14/15 with 3 as the new numerator. Well, I do have an equivalent fraction for 14/15, but is 3 my new numerator? No, it's not. Write an equivalent fraction for both fractions where 45 is the denominator. Well, I did write equivalent fractions for both fractions. Did I use the common denominator 45? No. Could I have used the common denominator 45? Yes, I could have, but it wouldn't be the least common denominator. Write an equivalent fraction for 2/3 with 15 as the new denominator. Did I write 15 as the new denominator and write an equivalent fraction for 2/3? Yes, I did. So these two questions are kind of close because yes, I could have done a new denominator of 45. It makes more sense to use the denominator of 15, but let's look at the other parts of these statements also. Then subtract the numerators and the denominators separately. We did all this hard work to find a common denominator. Am I going to subtract it now? No, I'm not. Then subtract only the numerators? Yes, that is how I do it. So that is why D is our correct answer. All right, number 2 asks us to find the sum. So we're going to take 1 and 1/2 and we're going to add 2/3 to that. We're going to get mad with 1 and 1/2, so we're going to turn it into 3/2. 2/3 is going to stay 2/3. We're going to find an equivalent, a common denominator, which is 6. We multiply 2 by 3 to get 6, so we're going to multiply 3 by 3 to get 9. We multiply 2 by 3 to get 6, so we're going to multiply 2 by 2 to get 4. We're going to add our numerators only. 9 plus 4 is 13. Denominator stays a 6. Then we have to divide 13 divided by 6, which is 2, remainder 1. And we write that as 2 and 1/6. So our correct answer is letter choice C, 2 and 1/6. Moving on to the next question. The fraction 5/16 is added separately to each fraction in the table. Determine whether the sum would lie on a number line between 0 and 1. Select one bubble in each row. So we're going to add 5/16 to all of these numbers here to see if it would come on a number line between 0 and 1. So 5/16 plus 1/8. Our common denominator is going to be 16, so this stays the same. And this changes to 2/16. So that is 7/16. And 7/16 would come between 0 and 1 on a number line, so that's a yes. Now we're going to do 5/16 plus 7/8. I'm going to scoot over here, give myself some room. 5/16 plus 7/8. Our common denominator is going to be 16, so this one's going to stay the same. And this one's going to turn to 14/16. When I add our numerators, I get 19 sixteenths. And when I divide 19 by 16, I get 1 and 3 sixteenths. And that is not going to come between 0 and 1. That comes after 1, so that's a no. Now we're going to add 5 sixteenths to 1/2. 5 sixteenths to 1/2. Our common denominator is going to be 16, so this one stays the same. And this one changes to 8 sixteenths. And when we add these, we get 13 sixteenths. And that would come on a number line between 0 and 1 because it's not a mixed number and it's not an improper fraction. So that is a yes. Now, you might know a shortcut to do these in your head, but when you take your state test in May, you need to actually work them all out. Don't try to do them on your head. And on this paper, you're going to work them all out because we're doing it together in a video. Our next one is 5 sixteenths plus 1/4. Our common denominator is going to be 16, so that stays 5 sixteenths. And this one changes to 4 sixteenths. We add that and we get 9 sixteenths, and that does come between 0 and 1 on the number line. Our last question, we have 5 sixteenths and 5/8. Common denominator is going to be 16. So this changes to 10 sixteenths. And when we add 5 sixteenths and 10 sixteenths, we get 15 sixteenths. So that's really, really close to 1, but it still is before the 1, so it still comes between 0 and 1 on the number line. Atticus had 4 3/5 cups flour. Kimmy needs to use 2 2/3 cup of flour from Atticus to make cookies. How much flour will Atticus have left over once he gives Kimmy what she needs to make her cookies? So we have a few keywords in here. We have leftover, and we have, let's see, she gives Kimmy what she needs. She's giving things away. She wants to know what's left. So that is a subtraction problem. So we're going to take 4 3/5 minus 2 2/3. This is what she started with, and that's what she let somebody borrow. We're going to get mad with both of our fractions, both of our mixed numbers. So this is 23/5. This is 8/3. We're going to find a common denominator, which is going to be 15. So we're going to multiply this by 3/3 to get 69 fifteenths. We're going to multiply this by 5/5 to get 40 fifteenths. And then we're going to subtract 69 minus 40, which is 29 fifteenths. But that is an improper fraction, so we have to divide 29 by 15. We'll go in there one time. We subtract, and we get a remainder of 14. 1 14 fifteenths, which is letter choice D. Moving on to the next page. It says, what is the sum of 1 2/5 and 2 1/3? We're going to do the same steps we just did, but instead of subtracting, we're going to add. So we're going to get mad. That's 7/5. That's 6 7/3. Our common denominator, again, is going to be 15. We'll multiply this by 3/3 to get 21 fifteenths. We'll multiply this by 5/5 to get 35 fifteenths. And then we're going to add. 5 plus 1 is 6. 3 plus 2 is 5. So that's 56 fifteenths. but it's an improper fraction, so we're going to divide 56 by 15. 15 will go into 56 3 times. 3 times 15 is 45. And when we subtract, we get 11. So that is 3 and 11/15, which is letter choice D. Tina completed 2/5 of a puzzle. Luke completed 1/3 of the same puzzle. What fraction of the puzzle was completed? So Tina completed some, then Luke completed some. They want to know how much was completed, so we're going to add what each of them completed together. 2/5 and 1/3. We don't have to get mad this time because they're not mixed numbers, but we do need a common denominator. And once again, our common denominator is 15. So this is going to be multiplied by 3/3 to get 6/15, and this is going to be multiplied by 5/5 to get 5/15. And when we add them together, we get 11/15, which is letter D. Getting a lot of letter D's recently. These will be the last 2 questions that we will do today. We will finish up the rest of the packet tomorrow. So Charlie and Landon are painting a wall. Charlie painted 3/8 of the wall and Landon painted 1/4 of the wall. Charlie thinks they have half of the wall left to paint. Is Charlie correct? Why or why not? So this is similar to the puzzle one. Charlie, except instead of putting together a puzzle, they're painting a wall. Charlie and Landon both painted a wall. So we need to know how much of the wall is painted to see how much of the wall they have left, because Charlie's thinking they still have half left. So Charlie painted 3/8, Landon painted 1/4. We don't need to get mad because they're not mixed numbers, but we do need a common denominator, which is going to be 8. This is going to be multiplied by 1/1 and stay 3/8. This is going to be multiplied by 2/2 and change to 2/8. So 3/8 plus 2/8 is 5/8. So Charlie thinks they have half the wall left to paint. If they painted the whole wall, that would be 8/8. But they're not at 8/8 yet. The whole wall is 8/8. They've only painted 5/8. So they have 3/8 left. 3/8 left to paint. Well, is 3/8, what would be half? What's half of 8? Half of 8 would be 4/8, right? Or half of 8 would be 4. So 4/8 would be half of the wall. So do they have half the wall left to paint if they only have 3/8? No, they don't. So the 2 here, A and B, both say no. These both say yes, so I can get rid of those. Now I have to see why he's not correct. Charlie is incorrect because 5/8 is greater than a half, or Charlie is incorrect because 5/8 is less than a half. Remember, a half in this circumstance is 4/8. Well, 5/8 is greater than 4/8, so that makes A our correct answer. And the last question for today. Select one bubble in each row that shows whether the sum of the 2 fractions shown is less than a half or greater than a half. So this side, I don't know if you can read it, is less than a half, and this side is greater than a half. Half. So we're going to add these to see if they're less or greater than a half. First, we have 2/5 plus 1/6. We need a common denominator, which is going to be 30. We multiply this by 6/6 to get 12/30. We multiply this by 5/5 to get 5/30. And when we add them together, we get 17/30. Now I need to know, is 17/30 greater or less than a half? In order to do that, I need to take half of 30. What's half of 30? Half of 30 is 15. So is 17/30 greater or less than 15/30? It's greater. So we're going to bubble in the greater spot. 2/7 plus 1/6. We're going to find a common denominator, which is going to be 42. We're going to multiply this by 6/6 to get 12/42. We're going to multiply this by 7/7 to get 7/42. And when we add them together, we get 19/42. Now we have to decide if this is greater or less than a half. We need to do that by taking our denominator, 42, and figuring out what half of 42 is. If you can't do that in your head, you can just take 42 and divide it by 2. That's what half means. So that's 21. 21/42 would be half. Is 19 greater or less than 21? It's less, so we're going to bubble in the less than mark. Last one, we have 1/3 and 2/5. Our common denominator is going to be 15. We're going to multiply this by 5/5 to get 5/15. We're going to multiply this by 3/3 to get 6/15. And when we add 5/15 and 6/15, we get 11/15. We have to figure out if this is greater or less than a half, so we have to figure out what half of 15 is. Now, half of 15 is kind of difficult because it's not an even number. 15 divided by 2 is 7, remainder 1. So that would be 7.5. Is 11 greater or less than 7.5? 11's greater than 7.5, so it is greater than a half. We will finish the rest of the NF review packet tomorrow in video. If you have any questions, email me.